Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and in this video I'm breaking down the brand new images from It Welcome to Derry. If you've been following the channel for a while, then you'll know the first video that really blew us up was the one where I pointed out every time Pennywise was hidden in the background of a scene. That was the highest viewed video on the channel and until Squid Game came along. I've been waiting for years now to return back to Derry to talk about what I think's the best character in horror. I read the book 3 times, obsessed over all the intricacies in the movie, and I was so hyped to see that we were getting a show centered around Derry back when it was really transformed into a town. These new images look great, and throughout this video we're going to be going through them all to talk about what they tell us about the show. We're also going to be going over what we know about the series as well, and there's so much to talk about. Now, though it's been listed as a full-on origin story for Pennywise, I don't know if it will center solely around just its backstory, as we know the series is going to be set in the late 1950s/early 60s. Pennywise actually crash-landed on Earth millions of years ago, and he landed in what would go on to become North America. Here he, or rather she, sat waiting in hibernation. Yeah, Pennywise, or rather the creature's real face is female, and they've gone bloody woke. Now, I always mess up the gender when talking about her, so to keep things simple, I'm just going to call Pennywise it. You don't care, but what you should care about is the rough timeline of what happened to lead up to the events of the book, which I want to talk about first. Now, it lay dormant until people settled in the area, and originally this land was inhabited by Native Americans. Using their techniques, they managed to subdue the creature by carrying out a process known as the Ritual of Chud. This is something that the Losers Club adopted in Chapter 2, and in the book they defeated it, whereas in the films they just shouted things like a live-action Twitter mob until Pennywise died. Either way, its greatest plan was that it allowed the town of Derry to be built up around it. This gave it a steady supply of food as visitors and settlers would come by the area, and it could constantly prey on them and their children. In the book, it says that it is Derry and Derry is it, and in discovering the origins of the town, we're going to be discovering the origins of Pennywise. Anyway, in 1715 it started its cycle, after awakening and taking some children from the settlements. There's a moment in Chapter 1 where Ben sits in the library and we see him looking up at a painting where there's a woman placing a baby in a well. This was actually originally going to be a scene in the film in which we saw it picking children off from the town and offering the mother the option to live or die in the kid's place. I jump to 1740, in which we get its first real cycle, in which it terrorizes the town for about 3 years. This was a complete bloodbath, and during it, 300 settlers from Derry disappeared. During the first film, we visit Ben's room and sees collected images from this, and can catch Pennywise standing amongst the settlers in a crudely drawn image. Now then disappeared for roughly 29 years, before emerging in 1769. From this point onwards, the creature continued its cycle, and it was responsible for several atrocities in the town. This included the Kitchener Ironworks explosion, which we saw Ben looking at images of in the library during Part 1. It also adopted the moniker of Bob Gray, which we got a nod to in it Chapter 2 when Beverly visited Mrs. Kirsch. Either way, the cycle goes all the way up to 1957, which I'm guessing is when the show is going to take place. This was his date, The Emergence, and in the book it was one of the most brutal appearances of the clown. Now, interestingly, the timeline in the book was set during this period, and this was then carried across to the TV adaptation. Both of these had the kids growing up in the 50s so that they could become adults in 1986 when the older sections were set. However, the movie changed things up so that they could be adults in modern day, and thus the films had the kids growing up during the 80s. Both live-action adaptations have done things differently to how they're laid out in the source material, with the 50s and 80s stuff being told side by side, whereas it was laid out much neater when they adapted it for the shows. However, I think we can kind of use the basis of the book to guess at what could happen in the 60s, as they skipped over a lot of the murders to shorten things down to fit a film. In total, there's 17 deaths in just that part of the book, which gives them a hell of a lot of things that they can now pull upon. Now, one thing that I don't think that the movie showed well is how lucky that the Losers Club actually was to survive Pennywise, and in the book they get out most of the encounters by just the skin of their teeth. They have a chapter where we see things from the point of view of a kid named Eddie Cochran as he runs through the woods being chased by it. Just as he makes it to freedom, he's grabbed and pulled in, and reading stuff like that really sticks with you. I think that the series could easily have full episodes centered around just one child trying to evade the monster, only to get taken by him come the end of the entry. That takes us into the images, and we have a number of missing children's posters which were spotted at the filming locations. The names on these include Daniel Van Helding and Peter Boda. Neither of them were on the list of Pennywise's victims, however, we do see some that could hint to what happens in the show. We have a police car in the streets, and later on can see the office of the chief of police. Though in the book he was called Andrew Radermarker, there could be a reason why we get different names in the show. Radermarker himself was killed in a seemingly strange and violent storm, and in order to fill the position, the chief before him would have had to vacate it. I'm guessing that the series might take a strong focus on the police due to the missing posters and the cop car and sign. In Derry, they were constantly looking out for why so many kids had up and vanished, and Chapter 2 in the book centers solely around the death of Adrian Mellon, which is told to us by a police officer who'd been put on the case. Adrian's death was shown at the start of the Chapter 2 movie, but they skipped over a lot of things that made this section of the book so creepy. Witnesses saw a clown at the scene of the crime, but fearing that it wouldn't hold up in court, they decided to never testify about seeing Pennywise there. Due to Pennywise's powers, it's also able to psychically put a form of mild hypnosis over the town, in which people aren't as interested in the missing kids as they should be. Now, a video posted on TikTok by Mr. Will Wong took a tour of the sets, and in it he also filmed the outside of the Derry police station, so yeah, I think they're giving a lot of focus to that in the series. We know roughly what the series will be about, but I think we could at least explore this in the series, and it would be great to see things from the perspective of the police. And there's also the Fremlin Dairy Van, and a one for Melvin's Deluxe Sliced Dill Pickles. Both of these really set the tone for the series, and this continues when we see the sets themselves. Now, this series is being filmed in Port Hope, Ontario, but they've done a great job of transforming the town. We've got lots of things like the modern appliance store advertising colour TVs, and there's also a sign that says Zenith. This could be a nod to the Stephen King book The Planet Zenith Rising, though it could be a reach to be fair. On top of this, there's also the Derry Press, some Campbell's soup tins in a window, and another very interesting location. We can see a Chinese restaurant called the Jade Orient, which has links with both the book and films. In them, the banquet scene happens at the Jade Orient, and though the location is different, we could be seeing the restaurant's first store too. We have the Derry Grill, the Derry Press, and also Second-Hand Rose Antiques. This could go on to become the antique store where Bill gets his bike back from, and in Chapter 2, this was where we got the Stephen King cameo. Lastly, we have a really haunting image with a car driving past a drain, and this has one of Pennywise's signatures coming out of it. Dangling from the drain is a bright red balloon, which the character of course used to lure kids in with. It's a really haunting image, and we also got in the video a picture of signs saying that this would be the home of the future Paul Bunyan monument. This was a big part of the book and second film, with it chasing Richie after Pennywise took its form. Now, the plot synopsis says, Welcome to Derry will take a look at a group of friends who are forced to take on their greatest fears when children begin to disappear at the hands of a murderous clown named Pennywise. The series will portray the events leading up to 2017's It Chapter 1, and it's gonna be one of the scariest series out there. So, though I did weigh on the police, I think this is definitely going to carry the aesthetic that made the film so popular, and the book and the miniseries of course influenced shows like Stranger Things. The series is being overseen by Andy Muschietti, who will direct several of the episodes. However, Bill Skarsgård will not be returning as Pennywise, and yeah, kinda bummed out when I heard that. However, we know the cast will be made up of Taylor Page, Joe Venedepo, James Remar, and Chris Chalk. I think Remar would make a great policeman investigating stuff, and sorry for constantly harping on about that. Now, the series is set to release in 2024, and so far it hasn't been held up by the writer's strike. Guessing that they got the scripts at the point that they're happy to start filming, and I can't wait to see this series next year. Anyway, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and the winners of our Quantumania box set giveaway are on screen right now. If that's you, hit me up on Twitter at Heavy Spoilers, and congratulations on winning. Very proud of you. Now, if you want to support the channel for as little as 99 cents a month, then please click the join button below, and as a thank you, you'll get access to early videos every week. We also have our merch store over at zeroedition.com, which sells lots of nerdy inspired t-shirts, hats and more. We just launched a Peacemaker and Drax inspired shirt, so if you want to head over there and help us out, then the link's in the description. Now, if you want something else to watch, we have a breakdown of the Game of Thrones spin-off on screen right now, so definitely head over there right after this. If not, then thanks for sitting through the video, really appreciate it. I've been your host Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.